It's been rumoured for a little while. Now we have official confirmation from his club Harlequins that Andre Esterhuizen, Andre the Giant, is heading back home to South Africa at the end of this season. And what a servant he has been for Quins. What a player he has been in the Gallagher Premiership. It's been a privilege to watch him week in, week out. I was lucky enough to work on the Premiership during his entire stint up until this season. And what a player. What a player. And I thought in my head, and one of the things that popped into my head is, he'd be in a best overseas player in the Gallagher Premiership 15 if we were to make one. And I thought, well, why don't I mark the fact that Andre Esterhuizen is going home at the end of this season by doing exactly that and picking an overseas 15, so a 15 made up of players from other countries who've graced the Gallagher Premiership. And this is going to be a little wander down memory lane in some cases, because some amazing suggestions. I would love to know yours. There's bound to be. There's no question there's going to be players I've missed, forgotten about, maybe overlooked. And let me know in the comments who those players are and whether you think I'm right in the 15 that I've come up with. My Premiership Overseas 15. Thank you, Andre Esterhuizen. Spoiler alert, he might be making an appearance in the number 12 jersey. Just leave that one hanging. But thank you for your service, Andre Esterhuizen. Thanks for all the memories. And enjoy going back home to South Africa. Enjoy your last few months in the UK. And as for other players that we've been lucky enough to see, only one choice at loosehead prop. The Argentine, they called him Toro, the Bull. Marcos Ayerza. 3 Premiership titles in his time at Leicester Tigers. What a prop. What a prop. Like, Argentina aren't quite the scary scrummaging side that they were, but he was at the forefront of Los Pumas being absolutely terrifying at set piece. And he wrecked so many scrums during his time and is beloved in Leicester and highly respected by everyone that's watched English rugby. It was a really easy choice at hooker as well. Scout Brits, one of the nicest human beings you will ever meet. And it's almost like a Hollywood screenwriter had just written the career of Scout Brits. He won a title with his last game at Saracens, and then he went off and won a Rugby World Cup as his last game ever. At the 38 years young, was it? Something ridiculous. Just such a lovely man, an amazing player, and a game changer in his position. Some wrote him off as too small, but he used to be employed, if you remember, by Saracens at fullback. Like, he wore 2 on his back and he did all the hooker things, but in open play, he would drop back so that when anyone tried to do a long kick, he'd be there to return it, and with interest and some amazing footwork. Trevor Leota would have been the other contender there. He was a great player for Wasps in his day. Tight head prop Martin Castrogiovanni, another one from Leicester Tigers, another player who formed that frightening partnership with Marcos Ayerza. And other players that this could have been Carl Heymans, Petrus Duplessis, both awesome players, but Castro, one of a kind, and was a sight to behold. Into the second row, Samu Manoa, Northampton Saints. The guy was 20 stone, and I mean, he was played quite a lot at number 8, but what a destructive force. Understandably, because he's very much in the style of French rugby. He was taken off to Toulon, paid a lot of money to go to Toulon, quite rightly so. But he did very well in his time in Northampton Saints, and he's the sort of player any team would love to have there. Another contender could have been Franco Moster in the second row, who was brilliant for Gloucester, but I've also gone for Will Skelton. And it was Saracens, the Will Skelton we know now as, one of the best locks in the world. And he's won European titles at La Rochelle and Saracens now. Did he win one somewhere else as well? No, that's it. But I think he's won more European Cups than any other player in his whole career as an individual. Forgot that right? I might have that. Anyway, point being, Saracens were massively important in him changing his body shape and his body type and becoming the player we know now, because he was enormous. He stayed enormous, but Saracens slimmed him right down, and it completely changed his game, and he was incredible, almost unplayable in those years he was at Saracens in the Premiership. Francois Lowe in the back row. I mean, the number of great back row players that have graced the Gallagher Premiership. Dan Braid at Sale Sharks, Stephen Luatua still playing at Bristol, George Smith, the great George Smith not in, Francois Pinard as well, but I've gone for Francois Lowe. loyal servant to Bath, captained the team, great bloke, brilliant player, Rugby World Cup winner, didn't win anything in the Premiership or at his time in Bath, but that's because Bath were going through a really tough time, and he was one guy that at times dragged them through on his own. What a guy, what a player, and one of my favourite rugby players of all time. Nobody wears their heart on their sleeve or wore their heart on their sleeve playing rugby more than Jacques Burger, who left it all out there on the pitch, gave no concern to his own physical safety or well-being, just threw himself into some dark, horrible places, and as a result became one of the most feared and respected rugby players in all of Europe. He's back in Namibia now on his, I think he's got a small holding there, bit of land in Namibia, sits out on his porch having a beer, cooking up a braai, living the life. And hasn't he earned it? What a player, Jacques Burger. And at number 8 to complete the pack, Sébastien Chabal, who, he was one of those players, he would have like an incredible game and then a really average game, but his highs were so high. Another player who, when he was on, was just unplayable and was part of a star-studded Sale Sharks team that won their only Premiership title to date. They also got the Challenge Cup in his time there. Loved Sébastien Chabal on and off the pitch. And that completes the pack in my Overseas 15. How do you think it's going so far? Leave your comments down below. If you get value from the channel, give the video a thumbs up. That really helps. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps spread the word. And it is just me, and I need your help for that. And if I haven't already, I really hope maybe on this video I will earn your subscription. As for the back line, staying at Sale Sharks, Faf de Klerk. I live in Manchester, and I've been at a lot of Sale Sharks games, and I've interviewed this guy a bunch of times. Again, what a lovely man. Absolutely lovely man. Ferocious on the pitch, and I think he changed the picture of scrum halves in the UK. His defensive tenacity is maybe his biggest strength. But when he burst on the scene in the Premiership, he was like just a ball of energy. Attack, Andy, brilliant player. Nick Evans, fly half, one of the greatest to play in the Premiership. What a player. Like the fact he couldn't get in the New Zealand team, or he got a couple of caps, didn't he? He was just happened to be alive at the same time and at his peak of his powers at the same time as Dan Carter. Otherwise, if he'd been any other nationality, he'd have walked into an international team. A Rolls Royce of a fly half. Incredible player. Into the wings then, Alassana Tuolangi. One of the scariest wingers since Jonah Lomu. One of the hardest to tackle. Do you remember in a World Cup, what World Cup was it, 2015? He got a red card because, I mean, it was one of the most ridiculous red cards you'll ever see. It was against Japan, wasn't it? Basically, a Japanese guy tried to tackle him low, and Alassana Tuolangi got sent off because the guy got a shin to the face. Alassana Tuolangi was just running to score a try and got red carded for it. But that gives you a hint, if you didn't see him play, just how frightening a specimen he was. Brilliant player. Andre the Giant. See, other contenders for the 12 jersey, I would say, I didn't mention Felipe Kuntapomi as a fly half. By the way, I didn't mention Cobus Reinach or Nick White, who would have been contenders at scrum half. Thomas Castagnerd, Ludovic Mercier as 10s. As for 12s, Semi Randrandra has been incredible at times. Seilala Mapasua at London Irish. Warrior. I think this guy tops it. And that's why I'll be sad to see him go. I have complained in the past, and I think it's a legitimate complaint, that there are too many overseas players playing in the Premiership, particularly in certain positions, inside centre being one of them, a position which England have a real lack of depth in and a real lack of quality in. And I do think there are players that have been blocking the route for English players to get there. Andre Esterhuizen, I don't count amongst that. I can only think it's a benefit to everybody in the league, not least the young players coming through at Harlequins, when you've got a player of his quality. He has been absolutely awesome, and he's got a few months left to try and go out on a high. He's already delivered some highs for Harlequins fans. Outside centre, Bruce Rayhana. I considered Matt Burke, who was kind of 15/13. Bruce Rayhana, I mean, slot him on the wing, put him full-back, put him centre. Just an awesome player. I think he's a coach at Bordeaux now. Amazing All Black. Amazing for Northampton Saints. And he makes my Overseas 15. As does Veroniki Gonova on the wing, who had a spell at Leicester Tigers, a spell at Newcastle Falcons. In fact, one of my favourite memories of him is when he played that game for Newcastle Falcons, and they played at St James's Park, home of Newcastle United, and they changed their kit to the black and white stripes, like Newcastle United. Gonover scores a try and does the Alan Shearer celebration. Great memory. Lovely bloke, incredible player. The quads on him, outrageous. It could have gone for Inga Tuilamala, talking to players who've played for Newcastle and have giant quads. He could have been in there. And finally, the Overseas 15 in the Gallagher Premiership history, as I see it, finishes with Jordan Murphy. Charles Piutau is an amazing player. Geordie Murphy is a legend. A legend of Leicester Tigers. There for, just doing a bit of quick, 16 years. Became a head coach at one point. That didn't work out too well. His time as a player, unsurpassed. 5 Premiership titles and 2 European titles. Unreal. And Geordie Murphy, just awesome. And a guy that didn't get many international caps. How good was he as a player? And that is my Overseas 15. What do you reckon? All inspired by this guy who's on his way. Leave your comments down below. Keep watching the channel. Check in. The Six Nations content will start ramping up. I'll have a Bulls v Stormers match review following the game tomorrow. Very excited about that one. In the meantime, leave your comments. Give the video a thumbs up. I'll see you on the next one.